Oh, there we go. There we go.
Diana.
Okay, hi.
Backstage. I don't need to be here, Diana. Come on. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Last Word. Who's hosting today? KP, Christy, Jodi?
I don't hear the audio. What's up, gang?
So I think that we'll all host.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just
Can't
wing
hear
it.
y'all, unfortunately.
Because it sounds, we have quite the kerfuffle. So I hope that I don't know if you've seen, there's been these celebrity break-ins. So I'm hesitant to say where Brian is because I feel like he has become a celebrity in the industry.
Well,
but
you wouldn't be telling on him of anything that he's not already telling on himself on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So
okay.
you're
So
not giving
for
away the
those,
secret.
yeah. So for those of you listening that are not aware, Brian's son has had a lifelong dream of playing professional baseball, and he made the USA baseball team and is playing in Tokyo this week. And Brian and his wife had the opportunity and was super stoked to be able to travel to Tokyo to watch his son chase his lifelong dream. So congratulations to the entire family. And as you can tell, he is very much missed in hosting the Last Word today, hosted by PRMG. KP looks like he's being chauffeured around some big city, all fancy and crazy, and also sponsored by FinLocker. And thank you to Chrisman Commentary for being the platform that we present the Last Word on every Friday. KP, where the hell are you?
So I'm on the bridge on the way to Newark Airport here. I don't know why the audio is not letting me connect to my my earpiece. So
we hear you. You sound great.
I know, but I can't hear y'all. So I may have to. It won't let me pick my. It let me pick my earbuds.
Yep.
And then it just got rid of them, and then basically said, now it's not even an option in the drop-down box. So I may have to go off camera and hold the phone up to my ear to be able to hear y'all because I can't really hear. So I'm working on it.
All right, awesome. Okay. So Christy, where in the world are you?
I am in Dallas right now. So right. I got a little setup over here so that I can have some peace and quiet, which is nice. So just attending the Garrett McCauley dinner the past day or so, and always good, really good information when you get leaders together and everybody gets to talk about what's going on in the market and what the expectations are, what we think from a compliance standpoint. That and $1 for everything we talked about might get you a candy bar, but it's good conversation. And regardless of whether or not you know what's going to happen in the future, because nobody does, I don't care if you're using the economic data that comes out from Fannie, Freddie, MBA, whoever, or you're using your magic 8-ball, you're probably about as accurate. Yep. But it doesn't let you off the hook of trying to build a competent business plan. You may have to pivot, but you've got to build a competent business plan. I think that's one of the things that this group was really focused on, was what are the things that we need to be doing from a long term, particularly around artificial intelligence and other investments into technology. Because while the business is, this is a cycle that we go in. When the business is busy, we're busy and nobody has any time, but they have lots of money and they don't invest in technology. And then when things are slow, there's no people or money to do the investment in technology because we've done that. But we know that ultimately we have to find the time and the ability to invest because consumers' needs and expectations are changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that that's the biggest opportunity and it's something that you and I have worked on and your team has worked on with me over the last year, is really improving your member experience and the loan officer experience. And we call it sales enablement. But I do think that those companies we were just on a call earlier today with an AI company, Christy and I. And when we were talking to that company, they explained their technology is AI is the worst that it will be. It will only get better. And what I feel like a lot of people are doing is they're waiting to see. Like you're always waiting to see what is going to happen and never making a steps. But if you can take a step, with a trusted partner, then that's going to continue to evolve and you're going to be able to evolve with them. So I thought that was an interesting term. But from locations, I am excited to say I am sitting in Ohio today. And for all of you NFL followers, if you didn't see it, you need to rewatch the Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers game. And even if you're not a football fan, you need to watch it just to see what the weather did last night.
I heard it was like a snowstorm.
I was out of town earlier in the week. I got back to the farm at 1:30 on Wednesday afternoon. It was 61 degrees. And by 4 hours later, I went to the barn. It was 42 degrees. And by 9 p.m., it was snowing. And then last night, there was a complete blizzard in Cleveland. Final 2 minutes of the game, the Browns came back and won by passing. And they were running shovels down the yard line so that the officials could see even where the goal line was. And the fans in the stands the snow was just piling on top of them. So Browns fans are as passionate about the Cleveland Browns win, lose, or draw as I am about the mortgage industry. So it was really fun.
So they're pretty passionate.
I got to tell you, my favorite Instagram page is called NFL Memes _IG, and it's so funny. And they had all these Jameis Winston quotes, and he's amazing in the stats and everything. But they showed this was the field one drive apart, and it was completely clean. And then the very next drive, it was just packed with snow. And there's guys in the stand that are, super obese, holding a hot dog and a beer with no shirt on, just going crazy when the Browns won. It was an amazing game. And so y'all were talking about, predicting the future, and it's a parlor game. It's fun to do. I love to do it. I love to kind of talk about it. I even did on my LinkedIn video last night, kind of what I think the setup is. But the reality is, I'll say it in a couple ways. I'm in New York at the IMN MSR conference. I got to have dinner with Robbie Chrisman 2 nights ago. And yesterday, Stan Middleman, who's the owner of Freedom Mortgage, and they own more government servicing than any other entity on the planet. And he also owns the Philadelphia Phillies, part owner. He had a nice 25-minute session, and he was talking about his book, which is called Seeing Around Corners, right? And he was very humble about trying to predict. He's like, no one can predict what goes on. No one knows what's going on, but you can, like you said, to your point, you can make your best plan and try and adjust and have, backup plans for, contingencies. Things might change, whatever the case may be. But it reminded me of something that my dad used to tell me. So, I used to run a team, both ops and sales and wholesale, for First Magnus in South Florida. And our office was the number one office for the last 2.5 years of our company's existence. And when the market crashed in 2007, my dad, who's passed about 4 years ago, who I'm wearing his jacket right now, it's a 60-year-old jacket. I've been wearing it for over 30 years. He said, son, you didn't make the wave, but you look good riding it. And that was it. I mean, we don't make the waves, and there's a lot of rainmakers and wave makers and whatnot that, there's a lot of, ego, and a lot of people talk about legacy and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we don't set the tone. We don't make the waves, but we can plan for it. And if there is any one wave maker more than anything, it's probably the Fed, which is why we watch them so much and see what they're doing with interest rates. And, you look at October, existing home sales was up for the first time in 3 years. Why? Because when people locked in their rates in August and September, when rates were like the lowest we've seen in, years, those turned into fundings and closings in the October data. And so you can predict to some extent some of the things that are happening on a macro level. But, what if a founder of a company passes away? What if a tech company goes out of business? What if, you get sick? And so there are things you can't plan for. And And those are obviously extremes. A pandemic, right? Which ended up being very good for our business. But to your point, you can't predict the future, but certainly.
I think we lost KP. He's probably in the Holland Tunnel. And Christy is on mute.
No, sorry about that. So,
Homeowner. Life is going to happen.
We lost him. It's fine.
What's that? What's that?
It sounds like you're in a tunnel.
Completely cut out.
Oh no, I'm just pulling up to the airport, and the guy's got his Lyft talking thing in the background. But what I was going to say, I'll make a quick note, and then I'll go on mute real quick and let you guys talk while I go into the airport. Basically, people have deployment, diamonds, diapers, debt, divorce, debt again, downsizing, death, the 7 Ds. People like to say diplomas. Those things are still going to happen. So even in a 3% mortgage, you're going to sell that house at some point. And we saw that. Existing home sales data spiked the highest level in 3 years. So don't sleep on rates. That's all I'm going to say. And I'll be inside, which is a little bit quieter here in a second.
All right. Awesome.
Look, I think some of that's true. The interesting thing about the conversation over the last couple of days is what kind of disruption has it had for homeowners who can say, well, if I don't get a certain price for my house, then I don't have to sell because I have this 3% interest rate. I can become a landlord. And I think the number they shared was more than half of rental units are owned by mom and pop investors. It's not the big hedge funds that people are vilifying. It's the mom and pops, and they have these homes, and it's making the market different. So those 7Ds aren't having the same kind of impact that they used to have.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'm actually looking for notes. I talked to Rental Beast earlier in the month, and Rental Beast shared those mom and pop owners. And for those of you who don't know what Rental Beast is, it is essentially it's the MLS for rentals. And they were talking about, it's not the institutional owners that are renting, but it is the mom and pops that have that. And I think, I don't know about disruption, but if you're sitting on, you don't have to move, right? There's no reason for you don't have to move because of a job. You can work remote. I think it's more lack of disruption and more people at ease because they're I'm not going to think about this. If you don't have to move, I'm not going to think about selling my house until rates come down so I can get a lower rate, or I have enough equity in my home that I can downsize and use the cash from the equity in this home so that I don't have to take on another loan. So I feel like homeowners who were able to get in at very low interest rates, it has caused less disruption and worry from their mind because they just basically have they've cataloged it in the back of their brain. I'm not doing this right now. I don't have to move. I don't need to move. So I'll stay put until a scenario changes.
There's a lot of truth to that. I think, Kevin said, hey, we were very, very busy in 2020, 2021. And that's obviously true. It's we pulled forward a bunch of demand. And so we're in a different market where our investments, I'm going to pull this, back to the technology conversation. So do you think that this is important as we think about our businesses? Our cheese has moved. That's what you guys are really talking about is our cheese has moved, and what and how we do in the future is going to look different just by necessity from the economics. So if
I just taught my 9 and 11-year-old girls about who moved their cheese.
That's a great. You haven't read it.
Because they were blaming something in the house on someone else, and I was like, "Excuse me, who moved your cheese?" And they're like, "What?" Anyway, I love it. Love the reference. Sorry, I had to chime that in.
Yeah, no, it's that, but that's all good. So Jodi, as you think about the AI, I was thinking about this device right here, this thing that carries all my pictures. Those are my beautiful children. But if you think about this, how many people said, well, I'm not going to get a cell phone back in 1994. And they said, I'm going to wait until this iPhone, I don't even know what number this is, comes out. No, they got the one that is, and it only got better from there. So that's what a lot of our technology is it's the flip phone or that bag. How many of you had a bag phone? I had a bag phone, right? And you carried it around, and if you were fancy, you had the one that could plug into your car, where they installed it and you had to go to the store for them to install it. And then you could unplug it and put it in your giant purse, because that thing it weighed like 15 pounds. So it's a very different model back then, but it didn't stop me from getting one. And it didn't stop me from using it. And it didn't work in every location. And it cost a fortune. So that's a lot like what we're looking at with AI and maybe even some other technologies. And while we can't invest in every one, we do need to have a technology investment strategy. So Jodi, if you were advising a client, so somebody brand new comes to you today and says, Jodi, I watched The Last Word hosted by PRMG and FinLocker this week. You guys were talking about tech. What's the first step that a company who is seeing this or who has been thinking about technology investment, what should they be investing in? And you're on mute.
Boy, I feel like you just teed me up like a big softball there, Christy. So thank you. And I do this work with lenders as an advisor to lenders, and many people think that consultants are rip and replace, and there's something that behind the scenes that drives them. And with every lender that I work with, I think that the technology that you use is unique to you, because we all, even though the outcome and the end result is the same, we all have a different way about doing business. So I think deep dive into what standard workflows are, an evaluation of your existing tech and your existing vendors, because likely you're using a very small or a fraction of what the lenders actually have in their toolkit for you to leverage to be able to streamline workflows and maybe even have AI that they have developed over the past years, and you've never gone back, or worse yet, they never came to you and told you what they developed along the way. So I think that the first thing to do is to evaluate what you have and to see, and then establish what your objectives are, see what your existing players how they can meet your objectives. And if they can't meet your objectives, then you have to start looking at other technology. But there's not one size fits all. One of our notes, for an example of that, one of the notes that we had for the prep, and I know it's hard to believe that we have any prep for this sometimes for this call, but one of the questions was about closing fees and the different vendors that are in the market. And is Smartfee still the king, or is it Ernst fees, or is it ICE fees, or is it Lodestar? And I do think that as there is competition, that competition makes the solutions better, and it also makes the solutions cheaper. So what I would say to that is, if you already have a fee vendor where you call out to bring the fees back, you should work with them not only on what your pricing is, but what their offerings are and what they're able to solve. And, take the time to evaluate the others, or take the time to pick up the phone and call someone who knows, what each of them offers, because it might be different for PRMG than it is for UFCU in the solutions that you use. And there are very small differences from when you look at fee vendors, there's very small differences, except for the fee and when they charge you the fee. Is it by run, or is it by funded loan? So those are the things to evaluate. But the first step is talk to the vendors that you have, tell them the problems that you have, try to get those vendors working together to solve problems with you. And there's more collaboration across vendors in the space today than there ever has been in the history of the industry.
Well, thank goodness, because that was always this issue with tech, is you had to kind of pick a horse, and they might play well with one or two others, but that was it. And today it's a much more collaborative, if you will, technology environment.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to see that progression over the years. Yes. And you made a point that in a lot of cases you can negotiate down. Everybody's feeling the pinch right now with lower volumes. That is true of not only lenders, but our vendor partners, and they are our partners. Like, we
Yes.
can't do what we do without them. It's like sales and ops. You got to have both of them. We have to have our technology partners, because it's not practical for us to be like, we're just going to build everything that we ever needed. We have to partner with people. And oftentimes, to your point, we haven't used every tool in our tool belt with the current vendors that we have. And so if you're looking for speed to implement and lowest cost, adding on something from an existing vendor is really probably your best way to step into something. Not that it's without any additional cost, but it's probably a lot less than switching out. It's certainly a lot less headache.
Yes, absolutely. And there is a lot of discussion around the SDK and API with Encompass moving to the web. I learned yesterday, and I have not fact checked this, for those lenders who are considering moving to the Encompass web version, and maybe there might even be some people in the audience who know the answer to this, but that you can do a phased approach. So you could essentially take the front end, for like loan officers, and you can step into moving to the web. You don't have to move all of your personas, your loan officers, your processors, your underwriters, your closers. You don't have to move them all to the web version at once. You actually can start in pieces. So if anybody can confirm or deny that, Diana, if you could let KP in again, he must have made it through security. He texted us that he is sitting backstage. There he is.
I've been here. I never went through security. I'm just sitting here. Speaking of tech vendors, StreamYard, can we please ditch them? They suck. I've always hated them. I've hated them for years and years and years. Literally, I cannot stand StreamYard. It is the worst. Just saying.
I love the blue boxes. So while you were gone, like Christy and I
No, I was watching. I saw it on my screen. And I was sitting backstage and nobody was monitoring the chat to let me in. Anyway.
We're just pretending like that didn't happen, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. I've been here the whole time. I just want to echo your sentiments about our collaborative efforts, because the three of us even met on the road years ago. Brian, years before that. And I love people with an abundance mindset, trying to help each other win and grow and learn. And you're right. Some companies are having a little bit lower volume this time of year. They may be geographically concentrated in snowy areas, where you're forced to watch the Browns win a game. But I will say overall, with 50% of the originators out of the business, it feels busier than it ever has this time of year for us since 21. So we're having, at least at PRMG, we have 3 channels and we're everywhere but New York. We're having a balanced approach. Our locks have been up every month since July, and fundings per day have been up. Hopefully, 19 days this month, not the greatest barometer, but per day it's good. But you talk about cost, Chris, and it made me think of something. You said, probably evaluating your existing tech stack and doing a deeper relationship dive at that is a great approach. I would also say the same thing for your database. CAC is a stat that's used across industries. It's customer acquisition cost. If it costs $500 to acquire a new loan for, say, a first-time home buyer, a servicer's CAC is $100. So if you have a loan on your books or an existing client with, a mortgage, it's much, much less expensive, like 80% less expensive, to go back to the well and mine your existing database and deal with existing clients and relationships and try and get more, business and dive deeper in that relationship than it is, finding a new loan. And there are a lot of people out there who only hunt new purchase business. It's expensive, and it's 5 times more expensive than going back to the well. I heard a little nugget here from a guy we brought to our office years ago, and he said he would call a week after every closing, and he would call every customer, and he's like, "Hey, are you mad at me?" They're like, "No, it's great. Everything's been going awesome. We were so happy. Why haven't you given me a referral? You must be mad at me." It was just kind of a funny way to go down this path that I'm talking about. You've got to call these clients, and you've got to get them to give you other clients. There's no replacement for phone work. There's no replacement for relationship building. And so I echo those sentiments of what you both are saying.
Yeah.
KP, it's
Absolutely.
interesting. Not only should you be asking after the closing, but you should be asking during the process, because when are people most excited about their new home purchase? It's the leading up to. By the time you get to the packing of the boxes and the unpacking, you're kind of past telling everybody about it, right? The deed is done, if you will. So you should be asking clients for referrals at the very, very beginning. Like, who else do you know that is talking about moving, that is looking at home, is thinking about refinancing or doing renovation, whatever the loan product is that you're doing? At the very beginning, you should be asking for referrals. And the pushback I always get on that is, well, I haven't done anything to prove my worth. Well, yes, you have. You've shown up, you've answered the phone, you've taken the application, you've counseled them on the right products. You've actually done a lot. Getting it across the finish line isn't the prerequisite for asking for referrals. You have to do it throughout the process. Every chance that you talk to them, and you don't have to go overboard with it, but you do need to ask earlier in the process, and then you need to follow up after the closing and continue to ask for those referrals.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with your referral partner. Like, hey, it's going amazing with this current customer. Who else is in your pipeline that's trying to get a loan closed? Can I do something to help them? Because, I mean, what I have found, it doesn't matter what industry you are in or where you sit, what your role is within an industry. You will win by your attitude and your hustle. And if you're willing to put yourself out there, make yourself uncomfortable, hustle like hell and grind, you will win. And show that off and be proud of the fact that you're a grinder and you're going to continue to win business.
Hey, amen to that.
Absolutely. That's a great way. We're 1 minute from ending on time. That's a great way to wrap it up.
Can we put a fork in this turkey? It's done.
I would say that we have killed it. Do we have the last word? Are we taking next Friday off for Black Friday?
I believe we are taking next Friday off. That it is
all right.
Black Friday. We're sending everybody to do a turkey trot and go shopping.
Yeah, run off those extra pounds. Get ready for Ohio State, Michigan. Go Bucks. John Hill, this is for you.
And Texas A&M, in-state rivalry renewed within the SEC. My Longhorns are going to go down there and kick some Aggie ass. So let's go.
Is this what you do? Is this like
no, this? Hook 'em horns.
This. Oh, okay. So it's like hook 'em horns.
I got to see Texas running horns basketball last night at the Barclays. They beat Syracuse. Just randomly, they were in our hotel for the conference, and I picked up some tickets and took Taylor Stork and Matthew Van Fossen, and we went up there. It was great.
Awesome.
Fun. I actually ran into your partner last night.
Who?
So he was here in Dallas.
Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we're divide and conquer.
Hey, that's the way the world works, and we'll be dividing and conquering next Friday. College sports, mini rivalries coming up, Black Friday shopping. Nobody tell me how many days it is until Christmas, because I like to live in my world of denial right this moment. And have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Happy Thanksgiving.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.